Greetings sailors and welcome to a replay of mine in the Minnesota. Oh dear. Well, somebody's got to play it, I suppose. I don't know why that somebody has to be me, but apparently I decided that I want to at least try out the Vermont in its final state. So that does involve playing this. Well, technically it doesn't. Technically I could just use some of the big pile of free XP I have at this point, but I decided to give the Minnesota a go because whatever else you say about it, or whatever else you can say about it, it is certainly a lot better at its tier than the Kansas Inn, which is just plain miserable. So you've basically got a whole lot of Colorado guns, essentially, at tier 9. You've got 4 triple turrets, and although they're 16-inch guns, because they're tier 7 in terms of their pen, they are not particularly effective. What you're also seeing here is me using the reload mod rather than the accuracy mod, so it's not the full base 40-second reload, but that then means that my shells are even more scattershot than they might be otherwise, which is definitely a bit of a frustration with this ship. And of course with the Kansas you don't even get to make that choice. With the Kansas you're stuck with both scattershot, dispersion and a long reload. Not to mention even worse shell performance. So this is looking like there's quite a few of the enemy team that have come over here to the sea cap. And that's very bad news for me, because I'm in a very slow ass ship despite being top tier and not having any carriers to worry about. Hell, there's not even that many destroyers to worry about in this one. Although, having mentioned destroyers, we're about to lose one of our own here. Akatsuki didn't know when to get out of dodge and got radared by the Fiji. Not radared, hydroed by the Fiji. You know, underwater radar, that one. And so in theory, for having a lot of 16-inch guns, I ought to do quite well here, but we'll see. We'll see if, when my back turrets finally come around, because the turret traverse on this is not especially quick. I'll see if I can actually get some shots off here. But this is already looking like I just need to run the hell away, because that's their tier 9 battleships over now on this side. So there we go. We do actually get a Citadel there. That's a kill, which is alright, but I've got the Missouri whacking away at me, and there's the Donskoy, the Nagato, and I think the Missouri is, well, they've not made an appearance here yet, but they are coming over here. And there's also a Bismarck, and they're all very interested in picking on me. So it's not going to be the usual HE spam even that I particularly have to worry about. It's just being battered to death by battleships slowly. Now I don't even really have the choice of stealthing up. A lot of these ships are far enough away that I could, except for the Bismarck, and of course there's the enemy destroyer that's still in the cap as well, and so that's just not an option. And I'm sure this is a situation that is well familiar to anyone that's ever played basically any of the standards that have been in the game up till this point, from going from the tier 4 up to the Colorado at tier 7, where if you get caught out on a flank like this, where it's a majority of the enemy team, there's not a lot you can do. You just cannot run away. You do not have that as an option, especially. And so I'm being forced gradually back because I don't want to be sitting broadside to all these things that might shoot at me. I've lost huge chunks of health already, and the nature of my guns means that I'm unlikely to be able to help out, especially. You'll notice, by the way, this is rather sped up. This is, I'm going to tell you now, this is a match that lasted for the full 20 minutes. But rather than make you sit and watch the entire real-time process of me just having to fall back and firing all the while, I sped it up by ×2, so you can still get an idea of what's going on. It's just you don't have to sit through the entire damn thing like I did the first time round. Now, sadly, the Scharnhorst was the last ship to the north. They've been taken out. There's not a lot I could have done extra, I think, to help them. I mean, trying to swing back in closer would have just gotten me killed sooner. And for some reason, this Bismarck in particular was determined to just chase me down. And so, yeah, absolutely no help with stealthing up at all, even if I didn't have to worry about destroyers, which I don't especially. There's one to the north somewhere, but presumably they're going to be more concerned with the parts of my team that are pushing over from the A cap now trying to take B. So this almost might work out. If I can distract enough ships, maybe it'll help the teammates in the middle, and I might even be able to put some fire in on them from the side, although maybe there was a better target there than the Nagato. I think I was thinking maybe I could try and take some guns out of the action by picking on them. So my rear turret's exclusively using to try and wear down this Bismarck, and taking an awfully long time to do it. And I'm pretty sure his 15-inch shells have got better penetration performance than my 16-inch shells, but anyway, and now he's in secondary range, so we've got that to deal with as well, so that's going to be lovely. And this just is a not good situation, you know. I've been basically forced out of the fight, and really I've only taken one lower tier enemy battleship along with me. And the rate of fire and the slowness of the turret traverse means I can't even really effectively help my allies that much, which I kind of wish I could more at this point, because it does not look like it's going well. This push into the middle is being completely countered. So this is looking increasingly like it's getting away from us, and for some reason, and I don't know why, the enemy team seem to have all of the divisions. I think this is what made a big difference in this particular game. I mean, it isn't necessarily going to make like a difference every single time. It depends on the quality of the players involved, of course, but a bunch of players coordinating together versus our single division. I mean, it was like half their team was in divisions versus 2 of our players, so yeah, I think that probably did make a bit of a difference. Anyway, the Bismarck's taken out. I might finally have a chance to stealth up for the first time basically all game till this point, but we really need to keep firing. I really need to keep firing to try and help my allies, so I'm going to try some more shots on that Donskoy, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Our teammates are not in a good position. And I kind of slightly misspoke, because the Bismarck was sort of tailing after me quite aggressively, but it turns out the Missouri sort of had a similar idea. I don't know why they swung so far out, but they did, and so although they're ignoring me, of course they won't do forever. So I've had the opportunity to at least swing myself around. I've used all my heals, and it's one of the many head scratches of this branch of ships that they do not get the US battleship enhanced heal. They don't even get any kind of quicker. Was it the Massachusetts that has it? Or is it the Alabama? I can't remember. The one that has the quicker cooldown on its damage control party. So yeah, I am worse off than I would be in an Iowa. Considerably worse off than I would be in an Iowa in this situation. It's now just me, that Aegea, who I think is what this Missouri has been mainly concentrating on, and that very low health Musashi up north. So you can see what I'm going for at this point. There's no way I can take this Missouri in a fair fight. Trying to finish off the Donskoy, which I do, and then at this point, yeah, this Missouri seems more than willing to make this trade with me, so let's go for it. He tries a last-ditch effort to kill me, but you know, he could have avoided me easily. He's the much faster ship, but chose to make that trade. And there we go, within touching distance of 200,000 damage. And sad to say, this is by far my best damage result in this ship. Now, points-wise, we were kind of close, and this Musashi is going to get to live, but the fact they had a surviving destroyer, and also that Alaska, means that, yeah, despite our Musashi managing to cap, he was never going to be able to defend the caps we did have, and so it basically is a question of, is it going to be the full 20 minutes, or are we going to count down to 0? And actually, as you can tell, yeah, we are going to count down to 0. Now, Musashi is going to get to live, at least, and I guess, you know, I can say I feel like I did the most that I could do in this game, but if I'd spawned on the other flank to start with, you know, I might have been in a different position, but as it was, I spawned on the flank where all the enemy team decided to go, and that was that. it was out of my hands pretty much at that point. All I could do is keep battering away and do the best I could do, and it did earn me a high caliber, 4 kills, 1500 XP on a defeat. Probably one of my better XP games as well in the Minnesota, but in the end it just wasn't enough. And it really does exemplify how often this side branch of ships ends up being a truly miserable experience, especially at the higher tiers. I think Colorado is kind of the last tier where that slowness is something you can really get away with, and then with all the other handicaps that the Kansas, the Minnesota and the Vermont have. I mean, the Vermont least of all, I guess, but it's still a slow old bucket of bolts. Yeah, it's just not a fun experience most of the time. And yeah, these things can happen in the Colorado or the New Mexico or the New York, but the matchmaking and the opponents that you're facing are usually not quite so punishing, and you're not quite so handicapped in comparison to them. So, yeah, I will keep on at this until my sanity breaks, or else I actually do get the XP required. I have put on all the flags and the camos to speed it up as much as I can, but I might at some point just decide that I'm going to free XP it to the Vermont instead. And honestly, if you were thinking of grinding up, at the very least I would say free XP through the Kansas if you can afford to. Minnesota firepower wise is a lot better, but you still so often get situations like that where it's just out of your hands and you feel like you're along for the ride. But at least you can do a bit more damage than Kansas, because Kansas really is a stinker in that regard. So that's it for this replay. As fun and exciting as it was, hopefully you got some enjoyment out of it anyway, even if it was just my own suffering. And yeah, if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.